Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, Bolt fam? It's the Director. Chargers fans, man. Today was the day. Cuts day, dude. And we got a lot of surprises today, I gotta tell you. The Chargers' final 53-man roster has been submitted, and of course, it came with a lot of shocking names of players that did not make the team. Throughout the day, man, I've been posting on Twitter some of my thoughts on these, but I wanted to grab them all collectively in one video. We can all maybe dissect what the roster now looks like with the depth pieces that the Chargers decided to keep on the team after cut day. Remember, 27 players cut, and I think there's maybe going to be a couple of more depending on if the Chargers want to try and upgrade some of their depth positions from all the other players that got cut throughout the NFL, because again, something like 800 players were cut today, which means that there's going to be some available if the Chargers feel they can get an upgrade for, let's say, their special teams, running back, whatever. They may have to cut another couple of guys to make room on the roster. So we got a reaction video today, man. Our reaction to the final 53-man roster for the Chargers about to get underway. Of course, we do have some fun graphics and stuff that I've put together just to kind of make things a little bit easier in terms of seeing who's on the team and who did not make the cut. So question in the comments for you guys: if you could make one adjustment, cut one player and add one player, who would it be? And of course, the players added are from the list of the guys that didn't make the roster with the Chargers right now. I have a feeling there's a couple of guys' names that are going to be very much so present in the comment section in this one. So cut one and add one from the list that we've got here today. Before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers' final 53-man roster reaction / reveal. Let's get right into it, man. I didn't write too many notes. Of course, I know like a lot about all of these players, and there's a lot of things that I thought were going to happen that indeed turned out to be true. If you guys caught our most shocking cuts video, it definitely did follow a lot of the names and things that ended up happening this afternoon. Well, let's start taking a look at the roster, man, because I know there was a lot of concern in terms of the Chargers' depth. Of course, improvement can always be made to any roster, but in terms of the Chargers, we wanted to see a lot of, let's say, delivery from our depth in those preseason games, of which the Chargers did not win one. Maybe that made people just a little bit worried about who's playing behind each player, but we're going to kind of dissect pretty much every single position and kind of give, let's say, a letter grade this time, right? Last time I said, well, let's give ourselves a grade, 1 through 5. That was dumb. Let's go ahead and give a letter grade on some of the guys here. And again, this is not going to be a letter grade in terms of like, Rashawn Slater versus Trent Williams, the best, left tackle in the league. It's not going to be in comparison to that. Just my letter grade and how I think the player holds down the depth position, I suppose. Just how confident I am in that player in terms of a starter or backup. So let's start here on the left side with Rashawn Slater, backed up by Storm Norton. Of course, Storm Norton is listed on this list twice here, and I do think he's going to be our swing tackle going forward, which basically means he's your backup on the left and the right side. Rashawn Slater, of course, A+. Storm Norton, I'm going to give, a D+, a C- in terms of his ability as far as a backup is concerned. I think he's okay, and especially when you consider how well he did versus the run. I think he's an okay backup, but we could certainly do a lot better, and that's still a position, him and Trey Pipkins on the right side, that I still think could see some movement in the next couple of days. Next to him, you got Matt Filer there at left guard. Of course, he's a candidate to move to the right side as well, and then you can elevate Jamari Sawyer up to the starting position. I still think that's a great option. But again, Matt Filer, A+, Jamari Sawyer, I'm going to give him like a B, man. I think Jamari Sawyer is definitely one of those guys that could start today if the Chargers really needed him to. At the center position, you got Corey Linsley backed up by Will Clapp. Now, Will Clapp is one of those players that I thought may end up being a shocking cut just because I don't feel like we saw a lot from him this offseason, whether it be in the preseason games or in training camp, but he's a veteran. He plays multiple positions. I'm going to give him like a C, I guess, and I think that's okay for your backup center, but it does kind of sting a little bit when we had Scott Quessenberry, who I would give like an A- to as our backup in years past. Next to him to the right, we got Zion Johnson, backed up by Brendan Hymas. Now, Zion Johnson, I feel like he still needs to earn the trust of a lot of Chargers fans, which is definitely okay. But to me, man, from what I've seen, the kind of, resume he's coming into the NFL with, I'm going to give him a solid A-. I think B+ A- is kind of where I'm teetering on with him because I do think he's going to have maybe a season reminiscent of Rashawn Slater in his rookie year. I think he's going to be just fine for the Chargers. They have a really nice one there at right guard. Behind him is Brendan Hymas. I'm going to give Brendan Hymas a C+. I think he's going to elevate into a pretty decent backup for the team. And then at right tackle, we got Trey Pipkins, Storm Norton. This, of course, being the narrative that a lot of us really hoped would become a little bit more dramatic in terms of how much they've improved this offseason. Of course, that probably didn't happen. I do think that Trey Pipkins does look better than he did a couple of years ago, right? A couple of years ago, we didn't want to see him, within 5 feet of the offensive line. But now it's impossible to deny that he has elevated in terms of talent. I'm going to give Trey Pipkins a C, I think, at the right tackle position, which, of course, out of the starters is the lowest. But I think a C tells us it's passable, right? And that's kind of what we were aiming for. I was hoping to get more in terms of like a C+, but I think a C is definitely going to be okay. We still have to wait and see how that turns out. And then his backup, Storm Norton, obviously, I think we gave like a D+, somewhere around there. Next up, let's actually just talk about Justin Herbert and the quarterbacks real quick, because it's going to be kind of a big part of the roster decisions for a lot of people, because, of course, the Chargers did elect to keep 3, and that's something that they alluded to a couple weeks ago during that preseason game, and it turned out to be absolutely true. Justin Herbert, Chase Daniel, Easton Stick. Now, of course, the grades are going to be, A+ for Justin Herbert, probably C's for both Chase Daniel and Easton Stick. I think they're both fine and, different things that they do. The other, but the topic people are going to be asking about is like, Director, was rostering 3 quarterbacks the move? Well, I stated a couple of weeks ago on one of my live streams that if the Chargers elect to keep 3 quarterbacks and they end up cutting a guy like Mark Webb or Michael Bandy, then I don't think it was a good move. And that is actually what turned out to be true. And so I still don't think it was the right call. I love Easton Stick. I think Chase Daniel is just fine. I didn't want to see them leave the roster, but I think I wanted to keep the other guys more. Not to say that, Michael Bandy would have had a big role with the team or anything like that, but he's really, really nice depth in terms of who else you're going to find out there in the NFL. But we'll get to that with the wide receiver. So there's your quarterbacks. Running back was kind of another surprising one right here. Let me actually go ahead and take off the letterbox for a second so we don't have these guys getting cut off. There you go. Larry Roundtree in the bottom of the screen there. I don't think it was being cut off that much anyway. Chargers decided to keep 4 running backs, which again, I kind of understand because Isaiah Spiller and his status right now, right? Isaiah Spiller is, I guess, still considered week to week, so we don't know when he's going to be back. And that probably opened up a door for the Chargers to roster another running back. If they weren't thinking about it before, then they probably were thinking about it now, which allowed Larry Roundtree to make his entrance onto the team in the final 53, which I think is completely fine. When Isaiah Spiller comes back, there may be a case to be made that the Chargers move on from Larry Roundtree and just roster, let's say, 3 running backs and a fullback for, a total of 4. I think that is kind of what I was hoping to see, but again, the injury status of Isaiah Spiller kind of opened the door there for Larry. So I'm going to give Austin Eckler an A+. Isaiah Spiller, I'm going to give a B-, C+. I'm going to say B- because I do think I see a lot more upside than some people. Joshua Kelly, I'm going to give a B- to as well. I think those guys are pretty neck and neck. They look really, really nice in the preseason. And Larry Roundtree, I'm going to give a C- to. I think he's got a lot of work to do. Xander Horvath, of course. The era of Xander Horvath has begun. Of course, that does mean Gabe Neighbors was let go. And I think this was a pretty obvious one. I'm going to give Xander Horvath a B+ on the roster. I think he's going to be just fine with the Chargers. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the camera off for a second so you guys can see a full view of the wide receivers. Going left to right, we got Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Mike Williams, DeAndre Carter, and Jalen Guyton. Now, of course, a lot of Chargers fans were hoping to see Michael Bandy added to that list. It blows. And again, like I stated before, like Michael Bandy, his role with the team likely would have been maybe, a sprinkle of special teams, but mainly being called upon if depth is required any point down the line in the season. It still kind of blows, though. If he clears waivers and he's on our practice squad, great, right? We can still call on him if we need to. But I'm still a little bit disappointed that we elected to keep other positions that I don't see as important in terms of how many depth guys that we have, while also letting go of a really nice talent as Michael Bandy. So your grades from left to right, I'm going to give Keenan Allen an A+, Mike Williams an A, Josh Palmer an A-. Very nice trio of starting wide receivers. DeAndre Carter, I'm going to give a B. Yes, and Jalen Guyton, I'm going to give a B as well. So very strong wide receivers all around. You just would have loved to see Michael Bandy make that list too, because I would have given Michael Bandy probably like a C+ as well. I think they look pretty good. Okay, next up, the tight end, and this will be the last part for the offense before we move on into the defense. We got Gerald Everett, Donald Parham, Trey McKitty. I think the only guy that I thought might make the roster from the dudes that were cut was Hunter Camp-Moyer, the former Oregon Duck. And, of course, he did make a pretty big mistake this last preseason game with the fumble. I don't know if that was a deciding factor. Either way, I think 3 tight ends, and the ones that we have are pretty strong. Gerald Everett, Donald Parham, Trey McKitty. Gerald Everett, your receiving tight end. Donald Parham, your receiving tight end. And Trey McKitty, your blocking tight end. All of which have a role with the team I think are going to be seen throughout the season. Gerald Everett, I'm going to give him a C+. I think he's got the potential to be a B+ throughout the season. I'm going to give Donald Parham a C+. You know what? I'll give Gerald Everett a B-, Donald Parham C+, and Trey McKitty a C. I think all of them have a role with the team, and they're going to be just fine throughout the year. So with that, guys, let's move on into the defense. And I think the defense was probably the most complex part of the whole team in terms of who's going to make the roster. And this one, again, it does have some surprises along the way. We're going to start with the DBs on the top and make our way down, okay? Because I do think the ones at the bottom may be a little bit more noteworthy for some of these players. Bryce Callahan, J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr., Jasir Taylor, Michael Davis, and Dean Leonard are going to be your cornerbacks. Keep in mind, I do think Dean Leonard at some point was listed as a safety for the team. He might be one of those hybrid players that plays corner or safety, slot, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to list him here with the cornerbacks. Now, to me, maybe not so much surprise at cornerback as I am at safety. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the grades here. I'm going to give Bryce Callahan. I'm actually going to give Bryce Callahan a B+. I think he's going to look really, really good in this defense. J.C. Jackson, of course, an A+. Asante Samuel, I'm going to give him a B+ as well. Jasir Taylor, I'm going to give a C+. Michael Davis a C+. And Dean Leonard, probably a D+ right now. I think Dean Leonard's got some work to do. Either way, I think it's a solid group of cornerbacks. Nothing too surprising. If Tevon Campbell would have been cut today instead of earlier, I think that would have been my most surprising cut, and he was already gone. So the starting corner is looking very nice. Let's move on to safety. Nasir Adderley, Derwin James, J.T. Wood, and Alohi Gilman. Okay, so, of course, Nasir Adderley, Derwin James. Nasir, I'm going to give a B+ to, and then Derwin James an A+. J.T. Woods, I'm going to give a C- to, and Alohi Gilman, I'm going to give a C as well. So I think there's pretty solid guys in there. But again, the competition at these positions was pretty steep, right? And there were some really good guys playing behind these starting 4. I do think that they made the right call in terms of who makes the roster. But the biggest name left off here is Mark Webb, and we'll talk about him in just a minute. I think that was one where I definitely would have made some room to keep him in the roster, even if he is battling injury right now. So we'll circle back around to that once we get to the cuts. We're going to have a list of the names here at the end of the video. Let's move on now to the linebackers. We got 6 of them, which, again, I think is kind of interesting. I thought the Chargers may roster 5, but given Kyle Van Noy's playing somewhat of a hybrid position, maybe you can convince me that they needed 6. Either way, I probably would have let go of one guy on the linebackers, whoever it may be, to add one more DB like a safety like Mark Webb because of how DB dependent this defense is going to be this season. So, Kyle Van Noy, I'm going to give a B+ to. Same with Drew Tranquil, B+. Kenneth Murray, I'm going to give a C+ to. Troy Reeder, I'm going to give a C. Nick Niemann, a C-, and Amin Ogbongbemiga, a C- as well. Solid group of guys, I have to say. I think with what the Chargers want to do on defense, they're going to be more than serviceable. I think Kyle Van Noy is going to end up being one of those underrated signings this season. I think he's going to be very involved both from inside linebacker and at edge if he ever needs to be called upon there. I think they're going to rotate him in anyway. Kyle Van Noy is going to be great, and the other two guys, Drew Tranquil and Kenneth Murray. I think Kenneth Murray is going to see more elevated plays than we expect because, you know, coming off a really bad season last year, I think he's going to bounce back pretty well this year. And if Drew Tranquil can stay healthy this season, he's got as, you know, good as upside as anybody. So linebackers, nothing too surprising other than the number. I think Amin Agbanbamiga was the one guy I didn't have making the roster that did, but he's pretty good too. As far as the grades, yeah, we already went through those. Linebacker, there you go. Let's move on now to edge. And this is something I have to remind everybody. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Preseason's preseason, okay? Let's not freak out. We didn't win a single preseason game. Who, you know, whatever. The Chargers and these starting edge players, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera here so you can see Joey Bosa. We have not seen Bosa and Mack in action yet, man. We are just days away from seeing Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack take the field, and I think just their presence alone on this defense is going to make things look absolutely nuts. I'm just going to throw that as a cherry on top in this video. Just get hyped about Bosa and Mack, guys. That's going to be one of the most important aspects of this whole team going into season or week 1 versus the Raiders. So at edge, we got Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. Backing them up, we've got Chris Rumpf, who looked fantastic in preseason, and of course Kyle Van Noy, who's playing hybrid. Again, here are your grades here. Khalil Mack, A+. Joey Bosa, A+. Chris Rumpf, a B+. He looked fantastic in the preseason, and then we already graded Kyle Van Noy. These guys are going to look fantastic. Again, the biggest shock here is that we did not see a signing like Emeka Egbule or Jamal Davis. I was thinking at least one of those guys would make opposite edge of Joey Bosa and Chris Rumpf, but it looks like the Chargers trying to squeeze as much value as they can out of Kyle Van Noy, who should be their hybrid guy out there. So edge, not too crazy, but I would have liked to see Jamal Davis make the roster if I had to pick one. And then finally, the interior defensive line. Probably one of the most shocking cuts of the day came by the name of Christian Covington, who I think Christian Covington is a great player. I think he's going to get scooped up sooner than later. He's going to end up starting for somebody else in the NFL. Let's go ahead and go over who did make the cut here. We got Morgan Fox, Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, who are my projected starting 3. Then we got Jerry Tillery, Braden Fayoko, and Otito Agbonya is going to be your backups there. And I think that's a solid group of guys. 6 defensive tackles, I think is a great number. I would have kept Christian Covington instead of Jerry Tillery, but again, there's probably a financial incentive behind that decision. Either way, let's give some grades here. I'm going to give Morgan Fox a B. I'm going to give Sebastian Joseph Day a B+, Austin Johnson a B-, and then Jerry Tillery a C-, Braden Fayoko a C+, and then Tito the rookie will give a C as well. Very strong group. If I were to grade the Chargers defensive line last year, we would have seen a lot of D+, C-. This year, we look a lot improved, vastly improved on that defense. So you guys let me know what you think of this final defense right here. I think it looks very strong. I would have chosen to shift around, I guess, the priority and positions for backups, because I feel like the Chargers are going to be using Alohi Gilman a lot this season. They're going to be using JT Woods because they have to. He's the backup behind Nasir Adderley. They're going to be using Dean Leonard because they're on the roster. I would have kept another guy with maybe a little bit more upside at safety like Mark Webb, just to kind of rotate in there with those, you know, nickel and dime sets. It's going to be important, at least in my opinion. And then you probably could have shaven off from the middle linebacker position to add another edge player. But other than that, I don't have too many complaints. I think it looks pretty solid. And then finally, just kind of, you know, the cherry on top, the last couple of details, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. Here are your special teams players. Josh Harris, one of the best, if not still the best long snapper in the league, for what it's worth. We got Dustin Hopkins and J.K. Scott. I'm going to give some grades real quick. Josh Harris, I'm going to give an A+. The best of the best is going to get the best grade. Dustin Hopkins, I'm going to give a B+ too. He's been pretty good for the past couple of seasons. And then J.K. Scott. I'm going to give an A to J.K. Scott, dude. This guy came out of nowhere. You guys know the situation with Matt Araiza. It's a shame. It's a horrible, you know, situation, horrible story, horrible decision made by the player. That whole situation sucks, right? But we wanted him. That doesn't change the fact that me and a lot of Chargers people were like, let's go ahead and grab Matt Araiza. Well, I think the Chargers got the best case scenario in terms of, you know, what had happened, what was going on behind the scenes with Matt Araiza, who ended up getting a nicer punter, whatever. I think Matt Araiza still is a generational talent who made some crappy decisions, and he may never play in the NFL again, where J.K. Scott was that free agent with the upside who the Chargers ended up picking up, avoided the drama with Matt Araiza, and J.K. looks pretty dang good, man. I didn't want to have like a punter segment on this video, but man, this dude's hang time, the distance, That's a really nice upgrade, man. I'm nothing against Ty Long or anything like that, but J.K. Scott, dude, that's a big upgrade. I got to emphasize that because I don't want him going under the radar for any Chargers fan, okay? So special teams, at least those top three look really good. As far as the guys, you know, in coverage and in return and all that kind of stuff, it remains to be seen. The Chargers desperately need to make sure that they at least, you know, feel confident that the return guys are going to be looking at least serviceable. If not, you may see some more movement in the next couple of days in terms of Chargers adding and dropping players that could help improve the special team coverage unit. So there you go. To wrap up this video, these are going to be your final cuts from the Chargers. We'll go ahead and single a couple of these names out. These are the guys that did not make the cut. And of course, we never like seeing anybody lose their job. We have to, at the end of the day, we have to remember that these are human beings, okay? These are guys out there fighting for their dream, fighting to make the NFL, and it sucks. All right? It sucks that you guys didn't make the 53 for the Chargers. Everybody else in the NFL that didn't make the 53 for their teams, I wish them the best. I hope that they have an opportunity. They get paid in the practice squad something. So let's remember that first and foremost, okay? So let's get into this list. Most shocking names. I think the top two on the left, probably the most shocking for me. Christian Covington, Michael Bandy. I wanted to live in the era of the Sticky Bandits, but it's not going to happen. Michael Bandy, I don't think he clears waivers. Christian Covington, I think he's the first player that gets scooped up off of our guys that have been cut. Unfortunate. We talked about Jamal Davis. Zach Bailey, the backup offensive lineman. I think he carried enough upside for somebody to pick him up. Trevon Bradford was kind of a given. Andrew Brown was kind of given. Too much competition at defensive line. Cole Christensen, linebacker, was kind of a given. Let me just kind of pick some names out of the hat here. Letty Brown, backup running back, free agent pickup as well. Undrafted free agent, I should say. He, to me, at least in the preseason, looked like he might be able to steal the job from Larry Roundtree. Didn't end up happening. I think between him and Kevin Marks, I think he was definitely the better free agent, at least in my eyes. Ben DeLuca, who had kind of an okay season last year when called upon. Again, not too much of a shock, but definitely want to see more safeties out there. Amik Egbule, between him and Jamal Davis, like we talked about before, surprised neither one of them made it. Down at the bottom there in the bottom left, Sage Surratt's now gone. Again, I didn't think the Chargers would roster 4 tight ends, and if they did, I thought it would have been Hunter Campenmoyer. Mark Webb above him, though, is probably, again, the top 3 most shocking cuts for me were Mark Webb, Michael Bandy, and Christian Covington. I really thought Mark Webb would make the 53. I really do feel like it came down to health with him. We know that he struggled with health last season. He got banged up a couple weeks ago. Still don't know the status of his return, even if he's, signs to the practice squad or whatever. But I feel like Brandon Staley loved the guy, man. He loved his upside. He loved his speed, his archetype, his size, his hands, where you could play him and put him on the field. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So I'm really hoping that Mark Webb and Michael Bandy, at least, those guys make the practice squad and can make a case for making the 53 as we go forward. At the top on the right side, you got Joe Gaziano, Kimon Hall, who I thought Kimon Hall was coming for Dean Leonard, man. As much as I love Dean Leonard, he is a rookie. He's made a lot of mistakes. I thought Kimon Hall might get the nod while Dean Leonard remained on the practice squad. That didn't end up happening, so maybe that one's a bit shocking as well. Michael Jackett was recently signed and released. Hunter Campenmoyer we talked about. Carlo Kemp was another guy, man, on that defensive line. Let's call him defensive end, interior defensive line. He looked really good, and he didn't make the cut. I hope he makes our practice squad. Eric Kromenhoek, he looked okay. Raheem Lane's another guy. Him and Mark Webb. Could we live in a reality where the Chargers skimmed a couple of positions here? Let's say linebacker. Let's say they took off Dean Leonard, and then maybe one guy from the offense, right? And we added Mark Webb and Raheem Lane as their backup safeties, and those safeties could almost be considered as like linebackers in this system, and I think they would have fit very, very well. So I'm hoping those guys at least make the practice squad, and maybe we can mix them in, see if they fit in that kind of mindset. Again, I'm not a coach, I'm not whatever X's and O's guy, but that's just kind of the first thing that came to my mind. Tariq Maddox-Williams is another guy that was kind of going under the radar that people thought might make the roster. Then finally you got Gabe Neighbors and Joe Reed on the bottom right there. I think I knew Joe Reed wouldn't make it the day we saw Michael Carter pop off in camp. And then Gabe Neighbors, again, the moment I looked at Xander Horvath and saw his upside in the draft, I knew it was probably the beginning of the end for Mr. Neighbors. So there you guys have it. Hey, again, good luck to every single name on this roster. I hope you guys get paid this season. I hope you guys get signed to a practice squad, something to continue working on yourselves in your journey and goals and dreams of playing in the NFL. So good luck to everybody on there. Those are my most shocking cuts cuts, my most shocking, observations. This is a really off-the-cuff video. Not a lot of notes. I just kind of wanted to, Photoshop the roster, give you guys a sneak peek of what it looks like. I'm going to turn off the camera one more time if anybody wants a screenshot for YouTube, for Instagram, whatever. Here it is, your offense, your defense, and your special teams, as well as your list of cuts. Definitely an interesting day for all Chargers fans and a lot of NFL fans in the NFL. It's pretty insane. So you guys let me know in the comment section below if you could change one thing. If you could cut one player that ended up making the roster and adding one player that got cut from the roster, who would those players be? And do you anticipate the Chargers making any additional signings? There's been a lot of players that have been released today. I'm going to be kind of digging through the weeds and seeing if I can find some names that I would like the Chargers to add. But if you guys have any names on your radar, please also let them be known in the comment section below. Well, guys, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Congratulations to the top 53 players for the Chargers that ended up making the roster. We are very excited for kickoff, which is in just a couple of days. I should say in a couple of weeks. Either way, very excited for the start of the season, man. Kickoff is just around the corner. Here we go, baby. It is Chargers season. The team is here. We are set. We are ready to go. Let's get out there and knock some car skulls. Let's go, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Don't worry, Michael Bandy. You're going to find yourself a home somewhere very, very soon.